Hey YouTube, it's December 6, 2022. Welcome to the Bubba Continuum. This is just a post-trip video. My wife and I went to Singapore. I put up a longer video, but I took it down because it had too much stuff about the trip and not enough about our relationship with God. So I thought it was stupid. So now I'm giving it another shot. My wife and I went to Singapore. My wife's from Zambia, and we went to Singapore because if you're an African, you're basically a prisoner in your country. No other country wants you as a tourist. So they come up with all kinds of reasons to keep you out. Even if you're married to an American, even if you can prove you have all sorts of assets, they don't care. So we had where basic choices were, there's some horrible places we could go. You know, we could go to Madagascar, we could go to Bermuda, the Bahamas. Out of the places that were remotely interesting, it was basically the Philippines and Hong Kong and Singapore. And Hong Kong makes people jump through a lot of hoops, and if they find out you have coronavirus while you're there, they've essentially put you in prison. They put you in a hotel, and I don't know if they allow you to choose the hotel or if your wife is allowed to go with you or how long it takes to get out, you know. So I didn't want to be held prisoner by the CCP. As for the Philippines, it's a very poor country, and when I talked to people from the Philippines about it, they said, why would you go there? Don't go there. So that was good enough for me. And anyway, Singapore turns out to be very, very pleasant, very peaceful place, wonderful people, prosperous, clean. Chewing gum is illegal. That's how clean it is. So we had a good time. I guess I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video. I will say we didn't really accomplish any great Christian purpose there, as far as I know. There was some guy who knows a friend of my wife's, and he had this experience. They're both Indian, and one of them lives in Zambia and the other lives in Singapore. And the one in Singapore is, I don't know what, a Hindu or something, not a Christian. And he started having these ideas that he should look into Christianity. And one day he was talking to his friend who is a Christian, the other Indian. And while they were talking, he saw a delivery truck go by, and I guess it was from a church or something, because on the side it said, Jesus always delivers, and it shook him. So my wife has been kind of counseling this guy indirectly, and we thought, well, we were supposed to meet him while we were there. We were supposed to pick up some money from him to give to the other guy because the other guy's having some financial trouble. And we kept contacting him while we were in Singapore, and he never would get back to us. So that didn't happen. So I'm not sure what the purpose of going to Singapore was, but anyway, we went. So not much Christian content there. Of course, you know, we continue to pray and get revelation and all that the way Christians do wherever they go. So the real reason I wanted to put up a video today was I wanted to explain a principle of Christianity to people. Christians are very, very ignorant, and we think things that are really unimportant are important, and we think things that are unimportant. Wait a minute. We think things that are unimportant are important, and we think things that are important are unimportant. Do you know it's a 13-hour time difference between here and Singapore, and I'm still not over it. Going over there, it wasn't so bad, but for some reason coming home has been difficult. And until I went there, I didn't know there could be a 13-hour time difference because I thought, well, the Earth is roughly 24 time zones in circumference, you know. So if you get 12 hours away, then aren't you getting closer when you go around the other side? But I guess it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry about my phone. I'm sure that's nothing important. I'm not turning it off because I'm tired of trying to make this video. Yeah, it's not important. So I'm still not all here, even though it's been several days since I got back. I wanted to talk about a principle of Christianity. People don't pray in tongues. They don't hear from God. They don't know what's important. And they don't understand that Christianity is a supernatural business. They think it's about being good. A lot of people think if you're a good person, which is really a low threshold, like if you, what they always say is, oh, I haven't killed anyone, therefore I should go to heaven. Like killing someone is the worst thing you can do, and there's nothing else you can do that God cares about. You know, you can go to hell for being unforgiving. You can go to hell for looking at pornography and not repenting. You can go to hell for gossiping. I mean, the idea that being good is going to get you into heaven, being what you think is good is going to get you into heaven, especially, is completely untrue. You're supposed to be forgiven. You know, you're supposed to try to behave yourself and maybe make an effort to be good, but that's not what gets you into heaven. What gets you into heaven is God's forgiveness. It's a supernatural thing. And there are people who believe all kinds of stupid things about Christianity. They think A lot of them think they don't have to do anything themselves. They just go down to the local Catholic church, and Father O'Shaughnessy will handle everything with God, and you say a few prayers, and then you go back to sleeping with your boyfriend and having illegitimate babies and, whatever you want to do. And that's not Christianity either. So it's a supernatural thing. Being a real Christian is a lot like being a wizard or, a sorcerer. And I know people will listen to that and they'll go, oh no, this guy, he's some kind of new age freak. He's masquerading as a Christian. But look at the lives of Jesus and the prophets. What did they do? They did supernatural things all day. I mean, Jesus cast out demons. He healed people. He worked miracles. He prophesied. He appeared and disappeared. So anyone who says that the supernatural isn't part of Christianity is just insanely wrong. Just completely out of there. Just so far wrong. The question isn't. It's not bad to be involved with the supernatural. It's bad to be involved with the dark supernatural, the wrong supernatural. So anyway, it's a supernatural business, and there's all sorts of truths that God will show you that are really very simple once He opens your eyes. And one of the truths that He will show you, you really need to absorb. Oh, there's an airplane going over. Isn't that nice? I'll edit some of this out. Okay, now that the airplane is gone, I was going to say it's very important. First of all, don't ever try to appease anybody. Don't ever say, if I give in, if I compromise, people are going to love me and everything's going to be all right. You have to give up the idea that you're going to be accepted in this world. It's not going to happen. If you're a real Christian, if you're accepted in this world, you're in trouble. Something's wrong. You're probably like Joel Osteen, who runs around with perverts and has no idea that he's losing his salvation. Jesus warned us about this. He said exactly what I'm saying. He said, if men speak well of you, then you're in trouble. Look it up. You're not going to be popular in this world. The spirit of Antichrist is a spirit of social acceptance. He wants you to be part of a herd that does. He wants you to do what the herd does instead of doing what God says. And He wants you to be on Facebook. He wants you to wear what everybody around you wears and talk the way they do and have the same morals. And that'll lead you to hell. That's all it takes. So anyway, you're not going to be accepted in this world. You have to stop trying to appease people. And I was thinking about this today. You have to realize it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you say. If you belong to God and the spirits of the enemy know it, they're going to try to kill you. They're going to try to see to it that you're rejected, that bad things happen to you all your life, and they're going to try to take you to hell. There's nothing you can do to stop that. You can win, you can get victory, but you can't change the rules of the game so that you get along with everybody. It's not. I see these people with these coexist bumper stickers. They're so ridiculous. Jesus wasn't about coexisting. He said he came with a sword. He said He came to divide families. And look what happened to Him. I was thinking about this because I saw a video about Torben Sondergaard, the guy that started the Last Reformation, which is a Christian movement about baptism and the manifestations of the Holy Spirit and so forth. They go around casting demons out of people. He's Danish, and he lived in Denmark, obviously, being Danish, and he was casting demons out of people and causing a big fuss because the Danes didn't like that too much, some of them. When you cast demons out of people, they tend to make a lot of noise and scream and yell, and they look like they're in agony. They writhe and so forth. I suppose it's because the demons are in pain. I don't know. But it looks bad on camera, and it disturbed people. And so the enemy, the devil, said to himself, well, I can fix this guy. And he got the leftist politicians in Denmark, which I guess is all of them. He got certain leftists over there to start working to pass a law. And the idea behind the law is this: psychological violence, they call it, is the same as physical violence in the eyes of the law and should be punished the same way. So, if I say that dress makes you look fat, then it's the same as if I punched you in the face, and I should be arrested. So the idea is they came up with this idea that if you cast demons out in front of children or people who have psychological impairments, mental impairments, that's abuse and you should be put in prison. And he fled the country because of this. Well, He came to America, started his asylum claim, and everything was going all right. He was doing all sorts of great ministry. And then one day they called him in for an interview about his asylum claim that the government did, and they lied to him. You know, I'll tell you something interesting I learned in law school. The authorities are allowed to lie to you. If you lie to them, it's a crime, but if they lie to you, that's okay. So they got him to come into an interview, and he thought it was just a routine interview. And they handcuffed him and put him in prison, and that's where he's been for several months. And it's a weird thing, you know. They seem to think that if they don't keep him in prison that he's going to flee. But if he's an undesirable alien, don't you want him to flee? I don't know. I don't know what their logic is. I guess they think he's going to hole up someplace and work as a line cook at Chipotle or something, like all the other illegals. But he's trying to defend himself on YouTube, and his organization just put up a video, and they showed the process that was involved in him getting in trouble in Denmark. And what happened was there was some kind of media person, a TV, I guess, producer or director, news guy, and he had worked with Torben a couple of times in the past, and Torben trusted him, and he started saying, oh, let's do a documentary, and Torben trusted him. And you know, if you're a Christian, you should never work with someone in the secular media. You really have to, Christians really need to get over this idea that God needs TV cameras, and that if somebody from CBS calls you, that it came from God, because it didn't. They have a long history of doing hit pieces on preachers, and they come in with a big smile. Of course they're going to do that. They train you that. They teach you that in journalism school. You come in, you charm people, and then you stab them in the back, and that's what happened to Torben. In this video they did today, they showed exactly what happened. This guy produced a documentary, and in the documentary he showed, first of all, he showed a bunch of crooked preachers who really were criminals. I don't know how many there were, but there were some crooked preachers in Denmark that really were criminals, and Torben was in there among them, you know, in these little video clips, and they didn't do anything to distinguish him from them. So that makes him look like a criminal, even though he had not committed any crimes. And then they also showed people having demons cast out of them. You know, they were screaming and yelling, and their faces were contorted. But they took care not to show the aftermath, which is people with tears of joy pouring down their faces, in peace, delivered, thrilled, everybody's hugging each other. That's what happens when you cast demons out of people. They made sure nobody got to see that. And they showed the children who were present at these things. And they chose one particular child who was crying and screaming. And this kid, for some reason, had pulled his pants down. Well, I'll tell you the reason. They did bring that up. So he was standing there in his underwear screaming. And they showed this video to a leftist legislator or some kind of government official. You can see the video on YouTube yourself. Some lady who's in charge of child welfare or something in Denmark. And she said, this is terrible. This child is terrified. He doesn't understand what's going on. He's urinated on himself. And it shows that we need to pass this law. That's her conclusion. People need to be protected from Torben. Well, the last Reformation, in this new video they put out, they went out and found a lady who was actually there. And you can see her in the original video with the kid, and then she's also talking in the studio. And she said what actually happened is this kid is autistic, and he saw people being baptized, and he thought they were swimming, and he wanted to go swimming. And he was told he couldn't do that. You know, obviously you can't have people swimming and being baptized at the same time. You can't be playing Marco Polo while someone's being baptized. And you know, being autistic, he threw a fit and started screaming. So that's what it's. And he didn't wet his pants. This lady just made that up out of nowhere. So here's this autistic kid surrounded by people who are taking care of him, looking after him. He's having a fit over some irrational idea that he has, which is something the autistic kids are going to do sometimes, or even normal kids. I know I did it. And they twisted it. They just made up a lie, and they put it on the air and used it as the basis of a crazy law. Well, the amazing thing about this is that later on, the people of the last Reformation defended themselves, and they explained what was going on, that this was an autistic kid and he wanted to swim. And instead of saying, oh, I was wrong, this lady, this politician said, well, that's even worse, because they're abusing an autistic child. And autistic people need to have everything. Everything has to be the same. You know, from one day to the next, they need routine. Everything has to be peaceful. So this is abuse. This is obviously abuse. And anyway, so Torben's in prison, and people in Denmark, I suppose, I don't know if they would like to arrest him if he goes back or what, but it's just a mess. But the center of all this to me is the way it shows that it doesn't matter what you say or what you do. They're going to be against you regardless. At first, they lied about him to create this bad impression. And then the lie was corrected. And then they took the truth and they said, well, that was worse than the lie. They didn't say, oh, we shouldn't have lied. It's terrible to lie about somebody who's trying to do something good in this world. Gee, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Disclaimer, here's our retraction. Here's our disclaimer. They didn't do any of that. They just doubled down and said, well, now that we know the innocent explanation is worse. And now if it turned out that none of this ever actually happened and that this stuff is all deep faked and this is proven, somehow that would turn out to be even worse for Torben. It would make him an even worse person because they've already concluded that he needs to be stopped. And they didn't conclude this based on logic. They concluded it based on the influence of evil spirits. Satan is a spirit. He works in people. He has other spirits he sends out to work in people. And if you're not a Christian, you're not hearing from the Holy Spirit, then you are basically like a drone for spirits that hate God. And you're apt to believe any stupid, crazy thing. And you can be made to do all sorts of cruel, sick, evil things. So this really struck me. I said to myself, I should tell people, don't compromise. I mean, they're going to hate you anyway. If you stick with God and you're faithful to God, they're going to hate you. It doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what you say. They're going to come out to get you. They're going to try to cancel you or whatever. So speak the truth. Continue in your relationship with God. Don't water things down. Don't backpedal. It's not going to help. They're still going to come after you. But now you're going to be a person who has a bad relationship with God, and you're a backpedaler and a liar and a weasel. So the bad things are going to happen. The rejection is going to happen. The persecution is going to happen. The hypocrisy and the compromise don't have to happen. You control that. So that's really what I wanted to tell you. You need to understand this. You need to stop courting favor with people who cannot be pacified. You don't want to end up like the state of Israel. The Jews have this idea, some of them, many of them, they have this idea that if they keep giving land to the Muslims, one day the Muslims are going to shake their hands and say, brother, we love you, thank you, let's coexist in peace. And it doesn't work that way. What they really want is for the Jews to be destroyed from the face of the earth. They certainly want them to be removed from the Middle East. And ultimately, they'd like them all to be killed. And polls taken in Muslim countries reveal this. They don't really hide it that well. So, oh, there's another airplane. Okay, so the airplane's gone. So anyway, I guess that's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't get the idea that you can make friends with people who belong to Satan. The end is coming. Things are getting weirder and weirder. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And, you may see times when things seem to abate a little bit, but that's just a pause before the next labor pain. So I hope this is helpful to you. As for Singapore, I don't know. What would I tell you about Singapore? If you're going to go there, eat at the food centers. There's 3 ways to eat at Singapore. You can go to a restaurant, a freestanding restaurant or a restaurant that's in its own building or its own space. And those are the most expensive. And you can also go to a place called a food court, and it's just like a food court in America. They have them in malls and so forth. But in Singapore, they're much more jammed up together, and the seating is crammed together. They'll have so many restaurants in one place. You'll say to yourself, how do these people make money? Where do they find people to fill all these seats? And the food's good there. It's about the same as it is in the independent restaurants, but it costs a little less. Well, if you go to a food court, what you'll find is a big concrete building with open walls, exterior walls, and inside there's these long structures that are cut into sections, and each section is like 10 feet wide, something like that. And it'll be a little room that's a stall, that's set up for cooking. There'll be stainless steel on the walls, and there'll be electricity and plumbing and all that. And they have these bright signs on them, and you just go up and order food and eat at these tables that are affixed to the concrete. So if you go to these places, you can find food from every place in the Far East. They'll have Malaysian food, Japanese food, Chinese, you name it. I mean, they have Indian food. Typically, the entrees at these places, you can get a big plate of food for, $4, something like that. And if you spend $11 and you're getting absolutely the best they have to offer, they'll get freaked out if you spend $11. They can't believe it. So you go to these places and you'll get food there that varies from pretty bad to really excellent. But that's true of the restaurants too. So it's not like if you go to a restaurant that has fancy tablecloths and all that, it's not like you're guaranteed of getting good food. So what you do is you go there on the first day, or as soon as you feel like it after getting off the plane, and you order like 5 entrees, and you just say, hey, I'm gonna live large, I'm gonna spend $20, and you get like 5 entrees, and you try them all, and then you sort of know what you like and who does a good job with it, and from then on, that's where you go. Every day you eat, and you spend, for 2 people, maybe $20 a day on food, instead of going to a restaurant and spending, $35 for 2 croissants and coffee. So Singapore can be very, very expensive if you don't watch it. Our hotel was like $212, but we could have gotten one for like, I don't know, $100 that would have been decent. We got a really nice place called the Carlton, and it was quiet, it was super clean, it was just fantastic. The food was terrible, so my wife insisted on having room service once for breakfast, and it was bad, so I wouldn't do that. And if you visit that hotel. Also, we made the mistake of getting some laundry done. We knew it was going to cost a fortune, but we had to have laundry. And we had 10 ordinary things washed, and it was like T-shirts and underwear. And it was $175. So if you go to Singapore, do your own laundry in the sink, or bring a lot of clothes, or find yourself an independent laundry place, because you don't want to pay for it at a hotel. And as for things to do, the botanical garden is fun, and they've got the weird building, the building with the boat-shaped thing with the swimming pool on top. And I don't know, there's stuff to do. It's not like Paris. It's not like London. You're not gonna think it's the greatest destination you've ever been to, but it's very pleasant. It's very comfortable. Anything you want to buy, they've got it, and you don't have to worry about crime. You don't have to worry about people picking your pockets or beating your head in or whatever. So a very pleasant place. I was surprised. Will I go back? I don't think so. Not because of the 13-hour time difference. That once is enough. So I guess that's all I got to say. I hope this does you some good, and as always, I hope to see you on the other side.